Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Let's go ahead and get started here. Today, we're going to talk about in-depth Hyland OnBase monitoring, knowing OnBase issues before your users are impacted. And this is just what we do here at Reveille. Our presenters today are Bob Howitt and Kieran Fox. Bob is Reveille's Vice President of Sales, and Bob has over 30 years of experience in selling technology solutions and managing teams in a variety of leadership positions. And this includes companies such as IBM, Tivoli, HP Software, and Mercury. And he will be covering the first part of this presentation. Kieran Fox is Reveille's Senior Pre-Sales Consultant. And Kieran, like Bob, has a multitude of experience. He has over 20 years in the enterprise content management space, and he's fulfilled multiple roles successfully in pre-sales, professional sales, and sales. And Kieran will be diving into our demonstration today of Reveille for Hyland OnBase. So I just gave a little bit on the agenda, but our agenda today here is as follows. Bob, like I mentioned, will be giving that overview of who Reveille is. This will also cover some key aspects on why we say Reveille is the purpose-built monitoring and management tool for Hyland OnBase. Kieran then will show what this type of monitoring looks like inside of Reveille, giving that demonstration, and what it means for your OnBase environment as well. We are then going to wrap up and go over any questions. So if you do have a question, please use the Q&A function on your screen, and we will either have time to answer it now or follow up with you shortly after the webinar. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Bob Howitt to dive into the details about Reveille. Bob?
Thank you, Ryan. And hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to hear about the Reveille story for OnBase. So before I get into describing what we do for OnBase, I'll tell you, using this slide, I'll tell you a little bit about who Reveille is and what we do. Reveille is an independent software company who focuses all of its energies on providing serious systems management capabilities for this world known as enterprise content management. And as you can see by the array on the left-hand side of your screen, OnBase, things like OnBase and FileNet and Documentum and all of the major leading enterprise content management systems, this is our area of expertise, is providing a monitor and a management solution for all of these kind of environments. And when we say environments, we're including the application stack that sits on top of an OnBase. We're including the underlying storage arrays and the databases. So if you have serious tier 1, tier 2 applications sitting on top of an OnBase, that's the world that we provide a solution for. If you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, this is some of our major customers utilizing this kind of a solution. As you can see, we have some of the largest banks in the world. We have some of the largest insurance companies, the largest pharmaceutical companies, and so on and so on. And why are they using Reveille when they already have literally, in some cases, 100 or more monitoring tools? Is because there's a gap when it comes to managing these enterprise content management systems. Things like OnBase and FileNet and Documentum. There are literally no other companies that manage all of these enterprise content management environments. Reveille stands alone in providing in-depth tests and monitors and dashboard reports about the health and welfare of those systems like OnBase. So how do these major companies try to solve that prior to having Reveille? Well, what they've done over time is they've taken the software development kit of a network management tool, okay, of a server management tool, of a database management tool, and they've tried to build out monitor capabilities using the SDK and internal knowledge. That's a significant effort. And we know that because it's taken us 15 years to build out these capabilities in the way we do it at Reveille. In order to do that, you're going to spend, as a company, you're going to spend between $300,000 and $500,000 in trying to build out Reveille's capabilities using some other tool that you already have. So it's expensive to do that. Or you can go ahead and take a serious look at what Reveille can do for significantly less dollars. Now, How do the Reveille software components work to manage your OnBase environment? Well, Reveille has two significant pieces of code. It's actually one code, but we call it two different codes, and I'll tell you why we do that. We have what's called the Reveille platform code. And the Reveille platform code is the code that we put together that includes the tests that are specific to those ECM environments. In this case, we're talking about OnBase today. So we have this code that sits on a Reveille server in your environment, and your environment can be a cloud, it can be on-prem, or either a combination of thereof. And that code is pointed at your OnBase environment. And what it's bringing back, we have 60 out-of-the-box tests, dashboards, and reports that bring back how OnBase is performing itself. And we'll get into that in a little bit. The other piece of code that we're going to talk about is Reveille User Analytics. And that's the code that we put on another server in your environment, and we point that code at your application server. What that code is picking up is all of the user information, such as their IP address, their name, their user ID, and what documents they're looking at, and what the performance of retrieving those documents looks like. That information can be used to augment security information about who's using what information and when. So the combination of these two pieces of code gives you deep insight into the health and welfare of your OnBase application environment. Now, over time, we've taken our code, our Reveille platform and our user analytics code, and we've built out what we call our solution packs, which actually we take our combination of reports and dashboards, and we help solve customers' problems about service level management, capacity planning as it relates to ECM environments, remediation and enterprise integration. And using our Reveille user analytic code, we've built out solutions for customers such as chargeback. What departments should get charged for the usage of an ECM environment, license management, compliance, and we add on to content security. Now, when I say we provide complete OnBase visibility, as you know, there are a lot of components that make up an OnBase itself environment, okay? The Unity client, but the platform itself, the underlying storage arrays. So we provide information about your entire OnBase environment. So it's as you know, OnBase has a lot of components and they all work in conjunction with each other. So we give you the complete insight that you need to see what those response times are, because the last thing you want to do is get a call from a user saying, I can't access my documents. So how does this all work? We have these pre-built tests, okay? In this case up here where it says ECM repository test, that's our OnBase tests. And for OnBase, we have over 60 tests that we point at OnBase, and we bring the results of those tests back to a Reveille database. Same thing for the capture components of OnBase. Same thing for capture. You might have a capture environment such as a Kofax. We support that environment, and we bring all of the results of those tests back to a database. Same thing with our infrastructure and RPA tests. Once that information is in our database, okay, then we can set thresholds against that data and see how are things performing, and is it performing at an acceptable level for you. That's how we populate our dashboards, our consoles, our reports. Reveille also has an alert and notification engine where we can send information to the user community that needs to be alerted when something's going wrong. And we have out-of-the-box integrations, so we can work with things like ServiceNow or any of your other ticketing systems or your dashboarding systems that you already have in-house. At a high level, that's how it works. We're going to show you all of this. Now, today we're going to concentrate on OnBase and the things that we do for OnBase. But just know that over time, we've built out, additional monitoring capabilities for the other components of your application stack, including the underlying storage, underlying databases, the business applications, and as I said, we have out-of-the-box integrations with things like ServiceNow, Splunk, the Dynatraces of the world, so we can provide our information specifically on OnBase to other tools that you have in your environment. So let's stop yakking a little bit about this, and let's turn this over to Kieran, who's actually going to provide you with a live demonstration of this. Kieran?
Thanks, Bob. Before I jump into the Reveille demonstration, I thought it'd be worthwhile introducing a set of documents that are available on our website. Reveille provides technical overview documents for each of the supported Hyland Content Services products. These technical documents cover in detail what Reveille monitors and manages for each of the Hyland supported platforms. So for example, the Reveille for Hyland OnBase technical overview, which I'm now showing, discusses the over 70 Reveille OnBase tests, dashboard metrics, and user analytic capabilities. Also, all of the Reveille proactive actions that can be implemented based on issue detection. There are also technical overviews for both Hyland Alfresco and Hyland RPA. Now let's get into the Reveille for OnBase demonstration. Typically, the first interaction with Reveille is a notification. This could be a post in Microsoft Teams, email notification, or passing an alert to a trouble ticketing system. For example, it could be via Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365 email, Slack, ServiceNow, Splunk, or any application that can receive a notification via published API or other defined standard interface. The key is receiving a notification when or even before something significant happens. The organization defines what is significant, so we do not send multiple notifications that are not required. We see timely flags when something is happening on the system that is of interest. Once we've reviewed our notification, we open the Reveille user console. This is where we investigate any issues that Reveille has encountered. The first screen we can see is the Reveille system status. This tells us what is running within Reveille and what is being monitored, who has been notified of any issues, etc. We next drill down into the Reveille system. This is where we can start to get a view of not only our OnBase platform, but the whole of our content management environment. It shows all the elements that are being managed and monitored within Reveille. You can see I've structured the Reveille environment based on product. We are monitoring content management, capture, archive, and collaboration systems. Typically, in a production environment, we'd likely not structure our monitor by product. Monitors are usually structured by server, functional area, or business area. This is defined by the organization's requirements and who is managing the environment. For example, somebody from security may want to see how the platform is being used, so they would only look at a certain set of monitors, checking for unusual content access. Alternatively, an IT admin may want to see how all content management servers are running and user performance. Access to these monitors within Reveille can be dependent on an individual's role. We can also group these monitors in different ways. We might group them by location or by department. So again, this gives us flexibility in structuring Reveille in a way that best meets the organization's requirements. If we go back to our monitors, the next thing we can see is the monitors are different colors. The color represents the severity status of the monitor. The orange monitors have a warning, the green monitors have no issue. We can filter on status and only look at monitors with issues or warnings. We can also filter by name. This allows us to quickly access the monitors of interest and go directly to the area we need to manage. Next, I'll open the OnBase monitor and drill down to the next level of detail. The boxes you can see within the monitor diagram are called Reveille resources. Resources allow us to structure the monitor based on the organization's system and requirements. You can see we've structured this based on different areas of content management functionality. So again, we can see Reveille's flexibility and its ability to allow an organization to manage its environment in a way that makes sense to them. Across the top of the monitor, you can see different tabs, allowing us to access monitor-related data. Status allows us to look at the monitor resources in more detail. We can also open those resources to view the tests within them and the status of each test. We can look at captured issues via the log, test response times, the number of incidents we've encountered and how many have been resolved. We can see who has been notified of issues. We can view metrics. As the test runs against the content services environment, we can gather data. This data is held within a Reveille metric. Multiple metrics over time allow us to produce trending analysis. We do this because it provides us with an historic view of the systems that are being monitored and how they are performing over a period. There are over 80 plus OnBase metrics available. We can look at this data and assess what's acceptable performance and usage, and define a baseline which we can evaluate against. If an evaluation fails, we can then flag it and raise a notification via one of the channels we discussed earlier. Reveille also gathers what we call user analytics data. If we open up a Reveille dashboard, we can see this data. User analytics data covers what end users are doing within the system and how the system is performing for them. When a user interacts with the system via a web-based interface, such as web client or REST API custom app, Reveille looks for the packets at the start and the end of a content services transaction. When Reveille sees these transactions, it extracts the relevant data and creates a user content services transaction within Reveille. Reveille works to observe OnBase application activity. It does not intercept the transaction activity, so it has no effect on the application performance. It provides OnBase user transaction visibility with context. You can see the type of OnBase business transactions available could be anything from search, logging in, logging out, deleting a document, exporting a document, etc. Typically, with each transaction, Reveille gathers when the transaction took place, who carried out the transaction, what the transaction was, the duration of the transaction, the server and client IP addresses and ports, the repository the user was connecting to, and any related transaction properties such as custom fields associated with a particular transaction. So for example, with a search transaction, the custom fields could potentially hold the search criteria. On a view document, they can contain the document name and document size. With this unique capability, transaction performance is no longer subjective. Reveille can gather the true nature of the transaction. Also, all of the above fields can be sorted upon, and specific fields can be excluded or masked to meet security requirements. It's a combination of this transactional data and metric data that allows Reveille to provide insight into how the system has been used and how it is performing, and whether or not it is working correctly for the end users. Dashboards allow us to visualize this data. Here you can see different types of user activity. When a user logs in and out of a specific OnBase repository, the number of transactions completed, how many documents were checked in, checked out, etc. To do this without Reveille is difficult. You may have to turn on content management system features, such as low-level interface tracing, additional database or file logging, or try divergent log correlation approaches, and that can have an adverse effect on system performance. This dashboard is focused on OnBase system and application performance. Performance and operation monitoring can be dependent on the type of system we are monitoring. For example, when we monitor an OnBase environment, we may be interested in session counts, query times, user counts, batch committed processing, workflow queues, license usage, database maintenance processing, etc. For the capture environment, we could be interested in document processing counts, document export counts, documents untouched, and document aging for DIP, EDI, cold and scan methods. We may also be interested in CPU usage, memory usage, the amount of disk group space remaining, thread counts, etc. across all the systems we are monitoring. Here we're looking at the transactional data from a behavioral point of view. We're looking at how many documents have been exported. We can also see it's been evaluated. If more than 30 documents are exported, Reveille will flag this as it may be a security issue. This requirement is from a customer. They wanted to know if anyone exported a lot of content overnight. So the customer scheduled an evaluation start from 7 p.m. at night to 8 a.m. the following morning, so they could see if anyone came in overnight to download a lot of content. If they did, security would be notified, and if required, the user could automatically be disabled. Reveille provided insight and control they never had before. Also, if we scroll down, we can see the data presented in different ways. For example, the same user but with a different IP address. What this is saying is if one user ID had been used to log in multiple locations at the same time, it might be that the user ID has been compromised, and Reveille can trigger an action to disable user access. Dashboards are very helpful, but we may also want to produce static reports on this data. These dashboards can be manually or automatically produced and sent out on a scheduled basis, or you can publish direct links to the Reveille dashboards to access them from a secure URL or a widget in a performance management portal, or save the dashboards to your favorite cloud storage such as Microsoft OneDrive. If I go to the reports and click on applications, I can produce a report to tell me what a specific user has been doing on the system. I filter the report for a certain time frame and what the user is doing. Reveille also provides performance reports. Here we're looking at customer experience report that shows how the system is performing for end users. An SLA report shows whether the OnBase system is meeting the required service level requirements. Reveille has over 140 REST-based API endpoints, providing access to Reveille data, administration, and operations from other common applications. It also provides trusted data connectors with data visualization and analytics tools such as Microsoft Power BI. This allows you to create your own dashboards and reports using Reveille data with organization data sources. We've looked at how Reveille can identify and notify when issues occur, and then provide the information required to investigate these issues. Reveille allows the organization to look at how the system is being used, how it is performing, and drill down into this information via dashboards and reports. So how do we set up Reveille to allow us to do all of this? The Reveille administration console is where we carry out most of our configuration. If we open the monitor we were looking at previously, we can see the monitor structure. We can see the resources it contains, and if we open up one of the resources, we can see the tests within it. You can see by the nature of these tests that we focus our monitoring capability on the content management products application structure. This functionality comes out of the box. It's simple to create a monitor within Reveille. We can create monitors via templates. If we right-click on an OnBase template and select Create via Template, we generate a monitor. We then define the parameters for this monitor, ensuring it is pointing to the correct OnBase system. Once we've created the monitor, we might want to add additional tests to it. Reveille provides wizards that enable the definition of new tests for the supporting technology portion of the business-critical content management-based processes, such as the servers, application servers, databases, log files, event logs, application interfaces, etc. What Reveille is enabling is the ability to manage and monitor all elements that support the enterprise content management environment. Creating a test via wizard is a simple process. I select the product and category I want, I select the test, add the configuration details, and click Create. We can now see the test I have created. I can open the configuration details for this test and see the metric associated with it. If we open the metric, we can see how it's managed and evaluated via the metrics manager. We can see there are many different types of evaluation we can carry out. There is also an option for a schedule. This allows us to define exactly when we are going to run these evaluations. Schedules can be applied to monitors, resources, tests, and evaluations. I mentioned earlier that Reveille monitors can be created via monitor templates. Reveille enables this with parameters. Parameterization allows us to remove the values from a monitor that may change and replace them with parameters. This allows us to create a new set of parameters for each new monitor and point them at the correct location. This really speeds up monitor creation time and management. I can now copy a monitor and just create a new set of parameters for the monitor and point them at the correct location. With other solutions, you must rebuild your production monitors from scratch. Reveille's focus is on ease of deployment. If you want to extend Reveille to look at a different area, it's simple to do so. Once we're happy with the monitor, we can run it. Monitors can be run at different intervals as required. We can define when notifications are delivered, and as mentioned earlier, we can schedule a monitor. In this instance, we want to run the monitor now, so I select the monitor and click on the Start Monitor exclamation mark. This starts the monitor and we can see this happening. If Reveille encounters an issue, it will notify the required people via the most appropriate channel, but we might also want to do something about this issue, and this is where Reveille can use a proactive action. We can configure Reveille to carry out proactive actions when it encounters specific issues. This could be automatic or can require confirmation. Reveille can carry out many different actions. As you can see, we have many out-of-the-box actions. They range from starting common OnBase services and processes to actions for AWS or Azure public clouds. Reveille can also run PowerShell scripts. This capability allows Reveille to carry out any action that can be completed via PowerShell script, providing great flexibility. The ability to carry out an action to resolve or provide a workaround to an issue ensures the organization reduces to a minimum the impact issues have on the end user and allows the content management administrators to reduce their administration time. If this was our test environment, we might want to take this completed monitor, export it from here, and import it into a production environment. To do that, we go to File, Import Export Wizard, and Export to File. We can then simply go into our production environment and import the monitor. Management also needs to review what's happening with the content management system, and with Reveille there are also ways they can do this. Reveille is device aware and uses responsive web design techniques, so if a manager accesses the console via tablet or mobile device, it is aware of the device they are using and presents the screen appropriately. Management can also go directly to a monitor or dashboard view. These show the relevant monitors and dashboards without having to go through the user console. It provides them quick, simple access. This view could also be placed on a monitor in the organization office, so all users can see how the system is running. So again, dependent on your role within the organization, Reveille presents you with the relevant information in the most appropriate manner. I'll pass back to Ryan now, and we'll cover any questions.
Thank you, Kieran. Hopefully everyone found that demo beneficial. Let's go ahead and take some of the questions that have come in. And as a reminder, if your question is not covered here, we will be sure to respond to you as soon as possible after the webinar. So question number 1, what makes Reveille agentless? Can you describe the high-level architecture?
Reveille doesn't require any changes to the Hyland OnBase system it's monitoring. No agents are required on the server side. No additional tracing needs to be turned on. This means that Reveille is simple to deploy and maintain. Regarding architecture, a simple Reveille deployment requires 2 servers, which can be virtual, one for the Reveille platform and one for Reveille User Analytics. Servers can be deployed on premises, in the cloud, or in a hybrid environment. Reveille also requires an underpinning database.
Awesome. Thank you, Kieran, for that answer. Let's go ahead and answer another question here. Question 2. It's great that you have metrics for OnBase, but what if I need specific metrics and notifications for my users? Can users add, update, or enhance existing metrics?
So Reveille metrics can be modified and additional metrics can be added if required. Also, the evaluations can be placed on all of the metrics and notifications can be sent through the appropriate channel when evaluations fail.
Thank you, Kieran, for answering that. Let's go ahead and do one more question. Question 3, Bob referenced other platforms that Reveille supports. Do all supported platforms include these predefined metrics?
So that's a simple answer, yes. All the Reveille monitored platforms include predefined metrics.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kieran, for answering those. Thank you those for submitting questions. We're going to go ahead and end the Q&A portion right there. And like I mentioned before, we will follow up directly with you after this webinar if we didn't get to address your question during this session. To wrap up, we want everyone to know that there's resources out there on our website that you could be taking in to further this discussion, further this education of what we do for Hyland OnBase. If you go to our website or specifically go to a product page such as Reveille for Hyland OnBase, you will find the ability to download a technical overview, which was mentioned, watch or record a demo, or view other related webinars. Of course, if you'd like to understand how Reveille will benefit your environment specifically, we encourage you to schedule a demonstration with our team. This can be done through our website, but also if you do have questions or would like to schedule a demo, you can always contact Bob Howitt, who did the first part of this presentation. His email address is on the screen now. So with that, we'd like to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar. Please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you, everyone.